10 Cloverfield Lane stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead and John Goodman, and it's basically like a, it's like a sequel, spin-off, prequel to the original Cloverfield. And this movie is basically about Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and she gets in this car crash and she ends up in this very confined bomb shelter with John Goodman and one other guy called Emmett. And John Goodman is really just this guy that really comes off as insane. He's a very, very strange, crazy, angry person, and he claims that he saved her life because the air outside the bomb shelter is contaminated and there's been an attack. So guys, I was really looking forward to 10 Cloverfield Lane because with the first Cloverfield I saw it, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was like amazing or anything, but it was a really good, well-made found footage movie. But there were some actual problems I did have with that movie. I actually did have quite a few problems with that film. We didn't know anything about this movie until like 2 months ago when they showed the original teaser, and that teaser hooked me so much because less is more when it comes to trailers, and there was absolutely nothing in that teaser. We didn't know anything. All we really saw was John Goodman like dancing around in a room and twerking his butt at the camera when we literally didn't know anything going into this movie. There's only one trailer, and it's literally just a teaser. So any little bit of 10 Cloverfield Lane footage that came out, like little TV spots, I was excited to see because I wanted to know more and more about this movie because the original teaser was so intriguing, and this shortly became an extremely anticipated movie for me. So overall, I thought 10 Cloverfield Lane was incredible. This movie, it's so good. This has to have a spot at my top 10 of the year whenever that happens, like in December. I'm sure you'll be seeing that in my top 10. 10 Cloverfield Lane is honestly one of the best horror movies I think we've got in years, because most horror movies aren't very good. It's just a bunch of jump scares and crappy characters. The way that they use horror in this movie is basically in a claustrophobic environment. After you watch this movie, you really feel claustrophobic. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is stuck in this basement with John Goodman, who plays this guy who's not really alright upstairs. And I need to commend John Goodman right now. John Goodman is incredible in this movie. If I guarantee, if I ever met John Goodman in real life and he said something to me, I would probably pee a little bit in my pants because this movie made me scared of him. So good. He's a big, intimidating guy. He's very angry a lot. He is insane. It's like, what I love about him is that you can never tell what's going on in his head. He's such an enigma because it's like, in one scene he'll be like extremely insane, getting angry over nothing, just like having a weird fit. Like you saw the scene in the trailer where he's just like clenching his fists, and then there will be other scenes where he seems completely normal. He seems completely sane, like a normal person. You can never tell what's going in his head because John Goodman has this unpredictability about his performance. Usually anytime he's on screen, you have no idea what he's about to do, so it's really intimidating and you're on edge literally every time this guy is on screen. And the tagline of this movie is monsters come in many forms, and John Goodman really shows that because John Goodman is truly, he's honestly the big monster of this movie. John Goodman is honestly the big antagonist. He's the big, he's the guy that everyone's afraid of. That's the whole horror is centered around John Goodman, and it's so good. I love it. Mary Elizabeth Winstead also blew me away in this movie. I love her in other movies like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. She was so good in that. And in this movie, this is honestly the best performance I've seen from her. She's so good in this movie. You're really rooting for Mary Elizabeth Winstead in this entire movie because John Goodman's character is such a douchebag, and you just want her to get out of this. And also Emmett, I'm not sure the actor who plays him, and I'm too lazy to look it up, but he was really good. This guy was probably the comic relief, I guess, of this trio. I mean, he's obviously like the character that is just like, he doesn't matter as much as Mary Elizabeth Winstead and John Goodman, but while he's there, I thought he was awesome. I thought he was funny. I really liked his character. He definitely isn't like that one character that you're gonna hate throughout this entire movie. I really liked him, even though he wasn't as big as Mary Elizabeth Winstead and John Goodman, because the movie mainly focuses on them too. And obviously, I need to talk about the suspense in this movie. This movie made my heart pound so, like, it went like boom, boom, boom out of my chest. This movie is suspenseful to the max because I mentioned how it has that claustrophobic feel to it, and John Goodman's and every time John Goodman's on screen, you're just like, oh gosh, what is this guy gonna do? Oh gosh, oh la. Especially towards the end of this movie, before like the big climax, the stuff that happens when Mary Elizabeth Winstead is trying to get out of this place, it's so good. It's so scary. And I also love how this movie is like, there's so many questions that are unanswered. Like, it's like, in J.J. Abrams, since he produced this movie, this guy honestly loves secrecy, especially in his trailers and in his movies, because there's so many questions in 10 Cloverfield Lane that you're just like, what? You want to learn more. You want to learn more about these characters' past. You want to learn more about John Goodman, especially, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead and their pasts. And there's just so many questions left unanswered in this movie that I'm obviously not going to talk about any of them, but it just really, it leaves you on edge at the end of the movie. And I gotta give big props to the director of this movie. I forget his name, but I'll like put it in text under here because I'm really too lazy to look it up. I gotta give big props to him because this is the first time director. He has never directed a movie before, and he did such a good job. I mean, I cannot believe this was the first movie this guy has ever directed. It's insane. But the thing is, this movie, it honestly is nothing like a Cloverfield movie. If you were expecting Cloverfield 2, you're not gonna get that here. This movie honestly could have been called anything that wasn't Cloverfield, and you wouldn't even make a connection with the two. You probably wouldn't even, like, notice that they were similar. I mean, this is such an original movie. It's something we have not seen before, and I really commend it for that. This is a movie that it's just so different. And with 10 Cloverfield Lane, I only have like but one flaw. Like towards the end of this movie, there was a climax that it was just kind of there. It was just kind of shoehorned in there. It didn't really feel like I had much of an impact on the movie. It's still very good stuff, very enjoyable, entertaining stuff. But if it led to anything, this wouldn't be a flaw for me if it actually led to anything and felt like it had an actual point. And like the very end of this movie, it honestly disappointed me. I was like, it didn't really wrap up the way I wanted it to. Like, it could have wrapped up on a much more suspenseful note where you don't know what's gonna happen. But it sort of ends that way, but just the way it ends, I don't know. I can't really say anything without giving away spoilers, but it didn't really work for me. So guys, 10 Cloverfield Lane is a fantastic movie. I cannot wait to watch it again. This is going to be a day one Blu-ray buy for me. I like 10 Cloverfield Lane much better than the first movie, if you could even call it a first movie, because they're so different. You need to see this movie. This movie is utterly fantastic. You need to see it. It's so good. Guys, I'm going to give 10 Cloverfield Lane an A. Do not miss this one. So guys, be sure to like this video, be sure to subscribe, be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that. Oh, and one more thing. I'm not going to review the new Civil War trailer, but Spider-Man! They showed Spider-Man! Woo!